November 21st, 1996. Beaufort Inlet, North Carolina. A dive team led by historian Phil Masters is attempting to find a lost, centuries-old treasure.
Diver to surface, diver to surface.
The dive team is looking for a very specific pirate ship, which may have been the most notorious pirate vessel of all time.
The ship is called the Queen Anne's Revenge, and it was helmed by the notorious pirate Blackbeard.
Blackbeard is probably the most famous pirate ever to live. Even though his actual pirate career was quite short in comparison to others, he was most active between 1717 and 1718, during the golden age of piracy.
Blackbeard is one of the best-known figures of colonial American history, but today, 300 years later, we really don't know much about his identity, origins, or even motivations for becoming a pirate.
There's a lot of questions and mysteries about Blackbeard's background, the first of which is his own name. There's a few different accounts that spell it differently.
In the majority of the official records, his name was written as Edward Thatch, which has since become Teach.
Other people said he was a Captain Drummond. Somebody interpreted the wording in a later document to believe that his last name was Kentish.
The fact is there were many pirates who actually went by aliases. So his identity and his real name are very much in doubt today.
Much like his name, Blackbeard's early life is unknown.
The first time we hear about Blackbeard is about 1716, and this is when he was sailing under the pirate Benjamin Hornigold. And Blackbeard was Hornigold's protege and became Hornigold's second in command.
Less than a year later, Hornigold promotes Blackbeard to captain of a small sloop in his fleet with a crew of 70 men.
How does a man become the captain of a sloop? First of all, he almost certainly would have been better educated than most of the men that he was with. He was able to read and write. He was able to navigate. These were not characteristics that were common among most men at that time.
Benjamin Hornigold and Blackbeard, the two of them as pirates, they're sailing up and down the American eastern seaboard. They were wreaking havoc against a lot of merchant ships, and they're especially active between the Carolinas and down to Cuba. And that's because there's a lot of major trading routes. They're looking for things they can sell, like textiles, spices, different types of alcohol, such as wine and rum, anything they could sell at a high price. And coming out of the Caribbean, where so much of this is being traded, it's ripe for the picking.
Despite their success, Blackbeard and Hornigold are soon at odds with each other.
Blackbeard and Benjamin Hornigold had some philosophical differences about how to conduct piracy and really what it meant to be a pirate. Benjamin Hornigold, specifically, did not want to attack British shipping. But of course, that means that his men lost out on lots and lots of plunder. It upset a lot of the men in Hornigold's crew.
Blackbeard, on the other hand, he's more gung-ho. He wants to rob any ship. He's indiscriminate about who he attacks. And so he wants more of that freedom to be able to really hit other ships hard.
By 1717, Hornigold is forced to retire, and Blackbeard is declared head of the fleet. He immediately sets out to make a name for himself.
Blackbeard is becoming a lot more famous, which means a lot more authorities are starting to look for him in various places.
At the time, pirates were that powerful, that numerous, and that dangerous. So the king had decided the only way to defeat the pirates was to divide and conquer them.
Or, in the case of Blackbeard, to send a privateer named Woodes Rogers to capture him.
When Blackbeard was blockading the port of Charleston, one of the residents informed him that Woodes Rogers had departed England and was on his way to the Bahamas to become the governor to break up this pirate republic that had been established.
I think Blackbeard knew Woodes Rogers was after him, and so he goes up at Topsail Inlet, which is today Beaufort Inlet, presumably to fight a well-armed enemy, and he hits a shoal and runs aground.
Another of Blackbeard's ships, the Adventure, comes to his aid, but it's too late.
This is pretty bad for Blackbeard. It is more than likely most of the loot, most of the real valuable goods, especially if it's Blackbeard's flagship, were stored on the Queen Anne's Revenge.
At this point, Blackbeard's treasure is estimated to be tens of millions of dollars. His own ledger reads about 12.5, but it's incomplete suggesting that there's possibly more where that came from.
Whatever survives from his original haul, Blackbeard wastes no time adding to his fortune.
Almost immediately, he captures 2 French ships. And in the meantime, news of his exploits going back into piracy have traveled around the Caribbean and the American colonies as well.
Frustrated, the governor of Virginia decides to take matters into his own hands.
Now, Alexander Spotswood, he has made it his mission as a governor to eradicate piracy in any way whatsoever.
In the letters of Alexander Spotswood, he states that he's very concerned that this pirate Blackbeard has established himself a base at Ocracoke Island. Obviously, having pirates or a pirate base just south of there would be a direct threat to the trade of Virginia.
So he's going to start putting plans into motion to stop Blackbeard at all costs. Governor Spotswood decides to commission Lieutenant Robert Maynard in order to try to take down Blackbeard. He gives him 57 men and 2 ships and is instructed, capture Blackbeard dead or alive.
5 days after departing from Kicquetan, Virginia, Maynard's fleet confronts Blackbeard's at Ocracoke Inlet.
Blackbeard and Maynard face off, and Blackbeard immediately fires a cannon into Maynard's ships, obliterating one of them.
During this gunfire, Maynard lost a number of his men, and the air filled with clouds of smoke. It became very confusing. It was hard for either of the vessels to see each other. They were basically adrift.
Blackbeard gets off another broadside. Again, mayhem. He mows down more of the Royal Navy sailors, and they jump on board, ready to seize control. And that's when Lieutenant Maynard unleashes his great surprise.
Maynard's men are all hiding below deck. And so when Blackbeard and his crew come on, Lieutenant Maynard's men rush up to the deck, and this massive bloodbath of a battle ensues. Blackbeard is wounded. He's stabbed in the leg by one of Maynard's men, and reportedly, Blackbeard shouts, "Well done, lad," after he's been stabbed. And in that moment, Robert Maynard sees his opportunity, and he takes his sword and he beheads Blackbeard on the ship, killing him once and for all.
Maynard returns to Virginia and places Blackbeard's head on a spike at the entrance to Chesapeake Bay.
A head is a fine trophy, but Maynard came back without Blackbeard's ship or any gold. So the question is, what became of Blackbeard's ship and the treasure that was possibly on it?
The adventure remains missing to this day, and its absence may provide a clue to what happened.
One of the theories is that one of Blackbeard's most trusted crew members, Caesar, actually had plans to scuttle the ship, meaning to destroy it before anybody could actually go capture him. The idea is, it's better to have all the treasure fall down into the sea rather than let any of it go into Maynard's or any other authority's hands.
Of course, it could have been Maynard himself. It was common practice at the time, after defeating an enemy, to burn their ship. Maybe Maynard didn't search the ship properly, and that would mean that all of Blackbeard's treasure, what he had dug up from Plum Point, now it's somewhere at the bottom of the ocean.
If the treasure remains on the Adventure, there's still hope for its recovery.
This might be our single best chance to find Blackbeard's treasure if we can find the wreck of the Adventure. We know it's the last place that he was, and there was probably some plunder on there. In 1989, the same company that found the Queen Anne's Revenge gets a permit from the state of North Carolina to salvage the Adventure if they can find it. So far, they have not. But the wreckage is still out there. Somebody's probably gonna find it eventually. And if they do, who knows? Maybe they'll get rich.